Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a reality that exists right alongside ours. We're talking about the unseen, and specifically, the jinn, creatures made of smokeless fire who actually lived right here on Earth long before humans ever did. We'll be looking at the spiritual threats they pose, along with dark magic and the strictly regulated scriptural cures used to fight back. Let's get into it.
So, here's our roadmap for today. First, unseen threats and dark magic. Second, how fortune tellers deceive. Third, the impact of the evil eye. Fourth, what is Ruqya Sharia? And finally, Ruqya versus fake healers.
Okay, Section 1, Unseen Threats and Dark Magic, the mechanics of the unseen. To really grasp these threats, we need to understand that the jinn have their own societies, their own free will, and a history on this planet that vastly predates our own. But while many live their own lives, some actively choose to work with human sorcerers.
And it is shockingly organized. Honestly, it's like a massive bureaucracy. The sources describe how Shaitan literally maintains a centralized database, a kind of dark index, to track victims of black magic. They actually sort people by their mother's names. It's not just some random chaos out there. It's a highly coordinated malicious network actively managing spiritual attacks.
And look, nobody is entirely immune to this unseen machinery, not even the Prophet Muhammad. The historical texts detail a specific event where adversaries hired a powerful sorcerer who actually stole the Prophet's hair and his comb. They tied knots in them, cast a spell, and hid the whole thing at the bottom of a well. The takeaway here is absolutely crucial. If a prophet can be physically impacted by this stuff, we definitely need to take our own spiritual protection seriously. And the cure? The divine revelation of Surah Al-Falaq and Surah An-Nas, which were sent down to dismantle that exact spell.
Moving right along to Section 2, How Fortune Tellers Deceive, the Trap of Astrology.
You might wonder how so-called psychics and fortune tellers actually get their information in the first place. Well, the mechanics are wild. It starts way up in the clouds, where angels are discussing divine decrees. Rebellious jinn will literally stack themselves, one on top of the other, reaching up to eavesdrop on that cosmic conversation. Now, most of them get struck down by flaming meteors, but every so often, a jinni manages to snatch just a single, truthful word from the heavens.
They take that one stolen word and pass it down the chain to a human fortune teller. But, and this is a massive catch, for every single truth the genie delivers, they attach 100 lies. 100! It perfectly explains the psychological trap of psychics, doesn't it? When that one rare true prediction hits, the victim completely forgets the 99 false ones. They just get totally hooked.
And it really doesn't matter how this deception is dressed up. Someone could be reading tea leaves, tracing patterns in the sand, calculating numerology, or drawing tarot cards. The aesthetic changes, but the underlying dark mechanic is exactly the same. The source of that information is always that corrupted demonic whisper, which is why all of these practices are strictly forbidden.
In fact, just entertaining these practices, even if you're just joking around, comes with severe consequences. The sources are incredibly clear. If you visit a soothsayer out of curiosity or read a horoscope just for fun, your prayers are rejected for 40 consecutive days. Think about that. You still have to pray, but you get absolutely zero spiritual reward for over a month.
Which brings us to a rather terrifying question. If simply reading a horoscope for a laugh blocks your prayers for 40 days, what happens to the people who actually believe it? The theology states that believing a fortune teller possesses absolute knowledge of the unseen equates to flat-out rejecting the revealed scriptures entirely. It's a total spiritual roadblock. This leads us to Section 3, the impact of evil eye, human-driven spiritual harm.
While dark magic relies on rituals and the jinn we just talked about, the evil eye, or Bodhnojur, doesn't require any of that. It just needs a toxic human heart. Think of your soul, your ruh, as an eternal, indestructible command from the divine. Bodhnojur is essentially the destructive radiation of pure envy. When someone looks at your success, your family, or your health with intense, ungrateful jealousy, it sends a literal metaphysical strike directly against your soul. And that can manifest as sudden illness or ruined relationships right out of nowhere.
So how do we fix it? Section 4. What is Ruqya Sharia, the scriptural solution?
You don't fight back with random counterspells, you fight back with targeted spiritual medicine. The texts categorize specific verses for specific harms. For instance, Ayatul Hark. These are verses of divine punishment are recited to metaphysically burn stubborn jinn and break black magic. Then you have Sakina verses, prescribed to literally wash a damaged soul with peace and tranquility. And of course, the three Quls, the final chapters of the Quran, act as your ultimate daily protective shield against that envy and those unseen whispers.
But you have to know going in, healing is a battlefield. These unseen entities will actively fight back to break your resolve. Imagine starting this Ruqyah process and suddenly waking up with mysterious dark marks or bruises on your skin. It sounds terrifying, right? But the sources warn that this is just a physical illusion projected by Shaitan. The goal is to trick you into thinking the Quranic healing is actually harming you, so you'll get scared and abandon your faith.
Finally, Section 5, Ruqyah versus fake healers, the final contrast. When people are hurting and desperate for a cure, they are so vulnerable to dangerous traps. And you really have a stark choice here. Authentic Ruqyah increases your faith, relies strictly on Scripture, and ultimately connects you back to the divine for permanent healing. On the flip side, you have fake healers, often called Kobaraji. They operate using the exact same dark magic you're trying to escape. They'll demand bizarre, sinful rituals like writing talismans on the shrouds of dead bodies just to appease the jinn. It's an absolute scam designed to destroy your faith and lock you into a perpetual cycle of dependency and sickness.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to consider how actively this unseen ecosystem shapes our reality every single day. From the ancient jinn who walked this earth before humanity to the very real, toxic power of everyday human envy, the threats are there. But importantly, so is the authentic cure. True protection isn't found in superstitions or dark mysteries, it's rooted in the clarity of faith. So when faced with the unseen trials of this world, will you seek the eternal cure or become trapped in the illusions of the fake healers?